Hi, and a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you for tuning in to the Level Up Podcast, our very first segment of the Level Up Podcast. And my name is Khaukhelo Habiani, aka KG, as known by my famous colleagues here at the networking company. And of course, I'm joined by my Chief Excitement Officer, Helen Nicholson. Helen, how are you doing?
It's really good to be here. And I'm privileged and proud.
New beginnings, of course. So Helen, you've trained a lot of people and organizations on the concept of mindfulness. And today you're going to be sharing some toolkits for us, talking about how we rest and recover from the stress that 2020 has been. Talking about 2020, I mean, there's no secret that we had a whole lot of company closures, job losses, and a whole lot of challenging situations that we had to get through. Some families probably spent their first time together in a house in a very long time, and a lot of arguments and things happened. But for the most part, it was a very strenuous period. I mean, you share the same sentiment, huh?
Yeah, and I think one of the things I've also seen with the companies and people that I've been chatting to and doing presentations for over this time is people have found that there have been no boundaries between work and life. You know, literally sometimes, and, especially if you don't have the luxury of an office, you literally are getting up from your bed and then there's a computer right next door. So everything is blending into each other. The dogs are barking, you're homeschooling, you're trying to do your job. So it's been a very stressful time.
I mean, there's now a concept called digital fatigue that I've learned from some of my friends. And that's been the thing that Microsoft Teams and Zoom and all of these things have placed a very huge strain on our mental and physical well-being. So looking at that, I mean, there were successes. I mean, looking at our company, we've pivoted, we've plugged in some new stuff that we're doing, very exciting things, but we've had to do what we could have probably done in over a year or 2 years. We managed to do that all in a space of like 6 months. So that is huge strain. And I mean, when we're thinking of the concept of mindfulness, that's where we're learning about all of these rituals and recovery methods that you teach. So before we get into that, Helen, I want to know, how did you get involved with mindfulness training?
Well, I think I personally was verging on burnout, and I had 2 or 3 instances which happened. Probably the most important one was a couple of years ago, I was in the Drakensberg with my family for the Easter weekend, and I'd been really sick. I'd had 3 antibiotics and I still couldn't get better. And on the Easter Saturday, I woke up and I was so frustrated because my whole family was going for a hike and I wanted to join them, but I woke up feeling terrible in my chest. I couldn't breathe. So I thought, as I often self-medicate, which is not to be recommended, I took 2 of my antibiotics together and ended up, and I hadn't eaten either, and I went into anaphylactic shock. So I landed up kind of lying naked on the shower floor of our chalet, and they had to ship me off to the hospital and get injections, and it was really very unpleasant, and it was a wake-up call. And you often find that people who get involved in mindfulness training or mindfulness practices often seem to have to literally have a life-threatening moment.
That sounds like a very horrible story. I wouldn't even imagine going through something like that. But I mean, in that process, you came up with a very interesting metaphor where you talk about, actually, let me not even get into that. I'll let you have the floor on this one. Very exciting. I know you love words, you love books, and you love reading. And can you tell us a little bit more about this concept?
Yeah, I think, because I do love all of those things, I like to think of a day as a sentence and your week as a paragraph and your month as a chapter and then your year as your book.
Yes.
And I'm a great believer in breaking down things because I think that when you break things down, then they're more manageable.
Yes.
And I think that concept of thinking of your day as a sentence, and I realized that most people didn't even have a comma or a semicolon at the end of their day, because often they finish their official meetings for the day, then they go and do family stuff, and then they get back on their laptops and back on their phones until they go to bed. And that's obviously why no one is sleeping. And I realized through some experimentation, and also I went on a conference on mindfulness at Google 4 years ago, and that also influenced a lot of my thinking. And to actually realize that we need to be athletes and not marathon runners, and that we are most effective when we treat our day as a sprint. And in other words, we cross a finish line, and that finish line is your full stop. So you often find at meetings, people speak about hard stops, when in other words, they've got a next meeting to go to.
Yes.
I think we need to approach our day in the same way and to realize there's actually a hard stop. And when you have a ritual that you put into place that indicates that hard stop, I think it's a very powerful way to actually tell your body, okay, now you can actually exhale and recover. And just like children, have bedtime rituals, we need to put in some bedtime rituals as adults. You'll find your sleep improves. And I think probably the biggest aha moment for me was how my productivity improved, because we constantly, are task switching and you're on your email and then the other emails are popping in and then you're trying to do something else. And that understanding, and we'll talk about that in a later podcast, but the whole multitasking is a myth really landed.
I was actually about to get on that because we all sit here and we're wearing the stress as like, look, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'm stressed, but I'm successful. And all of these concepts that are sort of seeming like the new age way of thinking, and you just need to be working all the time and that's the only way you're going to make it. But the fact that you're bringing up the idea of relaxing and taking a break to take care and reconnect with yourself, we don't practice that enough. And I love this concept of mindfulness. So how would you say I could look at my month? You're saying I should look at my month as a paragraph.
Yes.
So
your week as a paragraph.
My week as a paragraph.
Yes.
So think about that, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you're sitting at home right now, I wonder, do you even know when you're going to stop doing your work when you get home? Do you know that after you tuck your kid into bed, maybe that's your full stop? Do you know where your comma is? Do you even know if you have a question mark in your day? All of these interesting things that we need to think about. And I appreciate you, Helen, for sharing these with us. Where can we find out more of this information on this mindfulness stuff?
So you can come to our website. You can. I'm going to be speaking and unpacking, this concept of a book in all of our podcasts. So subscribe to the podcast, definitely. You can visit our website, thenetworkingcompany.co.za. And I think, I'd just like to leave everyone with my 2 full stops for the day, because we'd actually like to encourage some conversation around this, because people say to me, but what does a full stop look like? And it's got to be a very specific ritual. So I bath at about 5:30 every day. So I'm that girl in my pajamas, dressing gown and slippers. It's a very sexy look.
That sounds very foreign to someone like me who's only in bed at about 11 o'clock in the evening.
But you know me, Katie. I'm like a 9 o'clock kind of girl. And then like my eyes pop up at like 5 to 4 in the morning. But and I'm playing to my biorhythms because I know that I'm a morning person. And, if you're a lark or an owl, you need to know that about yourself.
And it explains why you always have so much energy. I mean, if anyone knows Helen, then you know that Helen is always up. She's never on a down. And that's because, guys, sleep at 5 o'clock, sleep at 6. Make sure you have your phone locked away somewhere and you can be just like Helen one day.
I'm not sure how necessarily exciting it is for one's social life. And you also haven't seen me at like 8:30 because I hit a wall. So, I don't go to bed at 5 o'clock, 30 or 6, but I start getting ready. So that bath and that change of clothes it symbolizes to my body, or it's this trigger that says, okay, now we're now shifting gears. And then I sit down with the couch with my husband and we have a whiskey. And when those 2 things happen, then I generally do not go onto my email again. There've been 3 times in the last year where there've been big urgent things that I had to deal with, but I make that the exception rather than the rule. So out of 365 days, if I've done that 3 days, then I think that, my body has been trained to know, okay, now we are actually going to relax. And I think that, I think one of the things that's come out of the virtual environment is that we have been trained to actually now multitask all the time. So when you're on a call, you can switch off your camera, then you can be doing your email, then you can, be replying to a family WhatsApp group, and maybe watching Netflix on another screen.
Of course, yeah. So, I think a lot of our young guys will resonate with that one.
And I think to realize that, and maybe that if none of those things are particularly important, I mean, first of all, I'd ask them why you're at the meeting. But secondly, I sometimes will multitask around watching TV because TV isn't important. So then I'll do my nails, I'll color in, because those 3 things I can actually do at the same alone time.
Yes.
But if it's something important, so in other words, I'm spending time with my children, with my team, with my husband, with my friends, then you unitask, because your brain is a single processing unit.
So we'll be talking about multitasking in the next couple of episodes. But I mean, I just want to recap on this. So you're saying, Helen, that we're looking at our day as a sentence, and we're looking at our week as a paragraph, and we're looking at our month as a chapter, and obviously reaching the end of the year now, how do we close this book off? So interesting conversations I'm having with Helen Nicholson, guys, the networking companies where all of this interesting conversations and talks are happening. Tune into the Level Up podcast, because you'll be sharing a whole lot more practical toolkits for you guys to use. Engage with us on social media. You might just win yourself a gift. Of course, we've got our salt here that will help you. You can use this as your full stop actually at home.
Yeah,
Then
I do.
When you get home, just pour a bit of salt in your bath, 20 minutes, sit and soak. But of course, for you to get a hold of this beautiful gift, we just need you guys to let us know on social media. What is your full stop? What does it look like? What are you thinking of implementing in your life to make your full stop more useful to you, or actually use these tips that Helen is talking about? And what are you doing for December? It's been a very long, tough year, 2020. And share with us, what is your recovery ritual? What's your recovery story? And of course, the best one will get these beautiful salts from us. So from myself, KG, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in. And of course, we'll be sending you plenty more episodes on this Level Up podcast. We'll be having plenty more guests. Of course, Helen will be a regular feature. Do you have anything else to add to that, Helen?
No, I just think that no one is coming to save you. You know, it's one of the themes of our work. And if any of you have attended any of our training programs or presentations, you'll know that. And you have to take responsibility for your recovery, because no one's going to say to you, oh, wow, you look a little bit tired, KG. I think you need to, you know, have a little bit of a break. It's not going to happen. And inevitably what happens is then we get sick. And I think one of the big lessons about 2020 is how our health is not a luxury. It is an absolute necessity, and we've really got to take care of it. And the way you do that is the quality of your recovery will determine the quality of your performance. So if you want a higher level of performance, you need a higher level of recovery. So put those full stops into your schedule.
You heard it right here, guys. Peace and love to all of you. Signing out. Level Up Podcast.